What's so cool about this natural law, when we have this misalignment at the top, the body is so smart, it's all about survival. It wants to keep everything perfect. So the head stays straight, but the misalignment causes the head to deteriorate. So the body self-corrects and sends a signal all the way down. So you're going to see a raised shoulder, a high hip, maybe a knee be unlevel, and then even more so, we'll see unbalanced legs. So can we see how something up here can create a chain reaction all the way down? So someone who's having back issues, in theory, if it started there, did it really start there? No. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't, but wouldn't it make sense based on natural law to see what's happening up at the very top? So people go, I don't believe in that. You can't have a back issue without having a neck issue. Or I don't believe it's on my back, doc. Just touch my back. If you touch my neck, I don't want that. Well, then you're asking me to violate the natural law. I'm going to give you one of 1,000 examples that we've seen. Ben played soccer, had 2 concussions. I want you to think about this head neck trauma. He had a full ride to a couple colleges, but his back got so bad he had to quit the soccer team. Went to 5 different chiropractors, but his mom said, come here, get checked, get the evaluation. We go through and say, well, this is nothing like anyone else has done. This is more expensive. The other guys, why would we trust you? We've already wasted the money. I said, don't trust us. We'll give you a refund if this doesn't work. So as we go through, 4 to 6 weeks in, Ben's back on the soccer field. He plays at, and this is several years ago, that's Union, one of the schools that recruited him, but he actually played at Randolph-Macon College as one of the strikers there. Now, what happened from a clinical standpoint? Here's some of the research, Stephanie, you're asking about. So fortunately, we had full spine films on Ben before he started care. So if we look, some of us, I know we mentioned the scoliosis term as part of the thing. Some of us have, or most of us even have some form of scoliosis. But it's not coming because your back's off. In Ben's case, this was his spine, his hips were turned. Most of us have experienced the treatment that you've gotten here by mainly focusing on the neck. This was Ben's spine about 5 months afterwards, all from correcting the neck. Evidence, I can give you 100 more examples. This is what happens when we follow natural law. It's this word called vertebral subluxation. What is that? It's the distortion, it's the misalignment, it's compression on your brainstem that disrupts how your nervous system works. I don't care if you've got headaches, I don't care if you've got cancer, I don't care if you've got ingrown toenails or ingrown hair. You can never heal to your full capacity if you're in this position. One of my favorite research articles, again, I can give you more, but I cherry pick the good ones. Obviously, that's what people do. But I can give you at least 15 more just like this. Most of us have heard of the condition MS, multiple sclerosis. Very degenerative condition. I've got a separate talk on it. But in this woman's case, she was in her late 40s. She had brain fog, memory loss. She's had a lot of numbness and tingling in her arms and hands and down into her feet. In fact, it was so bad, she had such cognitive degeneration that the DMV said, you are not deemed to drive. You are a threat on the road. So they revoked her license. Now she came in to Dr. Scott Rosa. When we look, they did a side view of an MRI of her head and neck, and they noticed that there was this narrowing of the cord, or the narrowing of the space. In medicine, we would call that spinal stenosis. Some of you may have heard your parents or grandparents, hey, they have spinal stenosis. That means narrowing of the cord. So based on what we've gone through already, do we think that the brain would be affected, the body, or potentially both? What did you say? Both, right? That's what we learned. So we fortunately have a look at what happened in the brain. If you look at the brain, you can almost see there's this like white, murky, clumpy substance coming together. It's called the pooling and stasis of the cerebral spinal fluid. That's basically what our brain has to detoxify every single day. So if you ever not gotten great sleep, back-to-back days, you feel like foggy and you're like, that is a lack of detoxification with your cerebral spinal fluid. In her case, it was being bunched up in her brain no matter how well she slept. Now what's unique is if you see this in babies, because their skull is soft, their head will just keep enlarging. And that's where we see children with hydrocephaly. You won't see it here in the United States because we've got drugs to calm that down. But in third world countries, you'll see kids with the size of their head 3 times the size. 6 weeks of upper cervical care, for those of you who started treatment, the exact same thing you're experiencing here. Look at the canal. More importantly, look at the brain. The numbness and tingling had slightly improved. She actually went back to the DMV and they gave her license back. It's just one, MS, multiple sclerosis, a death sentence. We've got charity walks, we've got fundraising, and we're not following natural law. We're praying over in the church and no one's ever looking at the neck. And no one's asking the most important question. Did you ever have any head or neck injuries early on as a kid? And you say, no, that never happened. We'll walk through. You're going to be reminded. But natural law. So the beginning of the disease process begins with postural distortion. Did somebody have a postural distortion here just a few moments ago? Maybe. What's the end of the disease process? Anybody remember? Pain. By the time you experience pain, there's most likely permanent damage. But what if we could check it earlier? Most chiropractors, myself included, we're not trying to fight against technology. It's not going anywhere. It's needed for life at this point. But we have to have something to negate against the natural law, the deconstructive forces that it gives us. So what can cause subluxation? Birth. People think birth is this smooth, euphoric. It's not a clean process, right? Especially if it's through cesarean section in the hospital. In fact, C-section children typically can have more health complications than normal births. Why is that? Well, because it's not one big zipper that the mom gets. It's a small slit. You get traction on the baby's neck, and then you compress the scapula as you pull the child out. C-section children usually have breathing issues, ADHD, sometimes all these cognitive things. Sometimes they're fine. But wouldn't you want to know if your son or daughter went through a traumatic birth to check for subluxation? Is that just me? Yeah. First thing we did, we just brought her here last week to the office, checked her. Why do we do that? Because we want to follow natural law. Let's go back to the 16-year-old boy. Literally had to relearn, retrain how to walk through physical therapy. He got up to the point where he could have a slow jog, went to stretch his legs, and then felt this shocking sensation, paralyzed. Yeah. Great insurance, 3 months of physical therapy, back to square one. What happened to that 16-year-old boy? He lost his identity. He became depressed, even close to suicidal. Mainly because his connection, his identity in life was through sports with his father. That 16-year-old boy made his way to an upper cervical chiropractor, did weird x-rays on his neck. After his second visit, he made more progress in the second visit than he did with the 3 months of physical therapy. He knew two things. One, he's actually going to get well. And two, this is why God put him here. Not just for himself, but to make sure no one ever had to suffer through what he had to go, whether it's a child, adult, grandparent, whoever. That 16-year-old boy went, played college football at Campbell University, finished his undergraduate at UNC Charlotte, went to Sherman College of Chiropractic, met his beautiful wife, Dr. Amanda Hartman, and now just happens to be speaking to you all tonight. I don't share that to gloat, I share that because I know what it's like to violate natural law, but I do know what it's like to get a second chance. I want to spend my lifetime sharing that message, not my story, but this message to people who haven't heard it, whether they're served in this office or anywhere else. My wife, collegiate volleyball, she's a better athlete than me, collegiate volleyball at East Carolina University. So Amanda, 3 concussions within the span of about 18 months, started getting migraine headaches, digestive problems, started getting little bouts of anxiety, some depression as well. This is all kind of finishing up her senior year in college, working here in Charlotte. She was instructed anti-anxiety medication. And she was having a girls' night out with her lady friends, sitting there, and she said, she was like, I was there, but I wasn't there. I was in my head. In the back of her mind, she was thinking how she was going to go home and take her own life. And the reason that's hard to tell is because literally 2.5 weeks ago, we had our daughter Eliana. We don't want that for any single person. Anti-anxiety, antidepressant medication, there's literally a black box warning on there for suicidal stuff. So if you have friends, family members, people in the church that are on these medications, it is your duty now and responsibility not to let them not have their natural law evaluated. If that's offensive, write an email. We won't read it, right? Other things, emotional stress, right? Who in here has been under emotional stress, especially since the whole COVID thing, right? Can create subluxation. Then even the foods we eat, the air we breathe, the medications we take. I know some of us take medication to do whatever it takes to just take the edge off. In some cases it's necessary, but you can't think that's a long-term solution because it is creating deterioration somewhere else, whether it's your liver, whether it's your brain. When you take ibuprofen, it doesn't just thin the blood to the region, it thins the blood to your brain, to your heart, to your organs. Anybody know the number one cause of bankruptcy in this country? Medical bills. 76% of all bankruptcies are from medical bills, not failed businesses. You've got to take responsibility for you and your family based on the best information you've got. For reference, most of us have seen this before. How do we know what's bad? We have to know what's good. That's what we call a normal neck x-ray. So for context, before I show you this story, Alex came in to our clinic. Now some context to Alex. Again, common theme. 2 concussions. Back to back within about 4 or 5 months of each other. Snowboarding. Perfectly healthy kid prior. After the snowboarding concussions, he showed up to the clinic in a wheelchair. Poor circulation of the legs. They felt cold. Because light was so sensitive, he wore a black eye mask. And he wore earplugs because sound was too sensitive. These are these sensory things that I'm talking about, right? People sometimes have it in their face. Sometimes people have it in their eyes or their ears. The sensory system was affected. Now, more context to this. Alex had been to 30 different specialists, including Duke Hospital, and said that Alex's condition is psychosomatic. He's making it up. When you see this picture, you're gonna get pissed. I mean, as a parent, imagine your kid, or the best in the world, doctor saying, your child's condition is made up. Makes no sense. Well, thank goodness Kelly, the nurse, his nurse that was in here, was in her 3rd treatment, saw no results yet. So not only did she not have results, but she actually risked. If she referred someone outside the medical profession, she would be terminated. So let's take a look at Alex's x-rays. First one when he came in, looks like the normal? Not really. 30 days after, again, important for the time frame, 30 days. Now, would we say there's progress and improvement as it's going toward the normal? Yes or yes. Does it look perfection? No, right? That doesn't look perfect, right? And this is actually the point. It doesn't look perfect. Let's take a look at the 3D view. 3D view before, would we say that looks off compared to that green line there? 30 days after. Will we say that looks better but not perfect? Well, the cool part is, let's see what Alex looked like prior and less than 30 days after. 30 days, give or take. So when Alex came into the clinic, this is how he approached. This is Alex. I timestamped this for us. This was Alex 30 days after. I'm a little biased, but I think this should be in every church. This is one of the miracles we see back that we hear about. Now, the coolest part, we never touched Alex's back, only touched his neck.